what happens, and as they join. Um, we are live, and we will start to see the folks showing up. Hello, hello, welcome, welcome. Jennifer has joined. Thank you so much, Jennifer. Diane, Australia is in the house. Kyla, Texas is in the house. Julia
Wow.
Jane, Heckles, welcome, welcome. It's a delight to have all of you here joining us today as we are celebrating, I want to say, one of our Hello Canada. Welcome, Marcy. It's lovely to see you. Um, as we are celebrating Stories 250. Yeah, I'm going to go with celebrating because I think that's exactly what it's about. I'm doing these each month, plucking from worthy guests who are have the courage to join me on these Substack lives to tell us about their stories as included in the Stories 250 timeline and map. This has become quite a thing now, as we have 20 something contributors now in the timeline and story. And I'm delighted to welcome you, Bill Moore, to tell us your story about Joshua Naylor. So tell us about Joshua and what got you into this.
Yeah, no, I'm kind of excited about this one. This is one of the better Revolutionary War stories I have, because he actually did a lot of interesting things. Um, so, as I said, I wanted to share the story. Joshua Naylor is my fifth great grandfather, and he was involved really in some of the most pivotal moments of the American Revolution. Uh, his journey from being a young Maryland militiaman to a seasoned veteran over a few years offers a window into the courage and resilience that shaped our nation. Joshua, as I said, was from Maryland. He grew up in Frederick County, which is just outside of Baltimore. Um, it was a place that was really brimming with revolutionary spirit. When Joshua was about 14 years old, the local judges there repudiated the Stamp Act, basically refusing to send money to King George. Uh, it was one of the earliest acts of defiance in the colonies. Um, so as we move forward to 1776, Joshua was 24. He enrolled as a private in the Maryland militia. Um, there, he joined the Seventh Company of the First Maryland Regiment. Well, they loved all these numbers. It was also known as Smallwood's Regiment. And he joined just weeks after that regiment was formed. Um, before we get into the battles, it's really worth understanding how the military was set up at that point. Early on, each colony had their own militia, which was part-time soldiers really focused on local defense, more, uh, dealing with the Native Americans, and occasionally when the British would come and do things. But um, there was no national army.
Mhm.
And um, after Lexington and Concord, it became very apparent that a national army was needed. Um, June 14th, 1775, the Second Continental Congress voted to establish the Continental Army. Very next day, they named George Washington commander in chief. But it was still a patchwork of state raised units. Um, Joshua's regiment immediately became a part of this evolving force. They were organized under Maryland still, but were integrated under Washington's command.
Mhm.
So in July 1776, Joshua's unit was assigned to the Continental Army, and they marched 551 miles north to New York to join. Um, I can't imagine that, but but they did. But there they faced their first major test, the Battle of Brooklyn.
Uh-huh.
Um, so on August 27th, the British launched a massive assault. Um, Washington's forces were outnumbered 2-1. Uh, they knew this was going to happen. The British landed 20,000 men on Long Island. Um, one one soldier, when he saw all the ships coming into New York Harbor, said it looked like they had brought all of London. Um, so Washington had his troops lined up. The British had theirs. Um, Across the middle of Brooklyn, there's a line of hills, basically, and there were passes, between the hills that soldiers would have to go through to get to the other side. Washington made one critical error. He did not station troops at Jamaica Pass, which was kind of on one end of the string of hills. Um, that allowed the British troops to come through and flanking the Americans. So they had troops on one side fighting, coming through other passes, and then the troops coming around behind them, basically, and the American troops were trapped. And at one point, it looked like that may be the end of the war. Um, Washington sent Joshua's unit um, around to get behind the British lines, basically just to make enough noise to give Washington time to retreat. So this unit became known as the Maryland 400, although there were actually about 500 of them. But they attacked from the rear, and a lot of the British troops were gathered in one area, and that's well, now basically Park Slope in Brooklyn. But they were at a stone house, and the Maryland 400 attacked it, repelled, attacked again, repelled, and this went on for some time. Um, what it did was allow time for Washington and his remaining troops to ferry across to Manhattan overnight. Um, and that was that was really the reason for what Joshua's troops were doing. Um, Over half of the Marylanders were killed in the battle. There were 256 killed. About 100 were taken prisoner.
Hmm.
Just a few managed to uh, get out themselves. Um, Washington, watching the battle, was said to remark, "Good God, what brave fellows I must this day lose." But as I said, Joshua survived. He was able to rejoin Washington troops. The 256 dead were buried in mass graves in Brooklyn. The British buried them. Two long trenches. Um, Said that they had their heads facing east, which was the military custom. Um, the graves have been found. They are under a parking lot for an auto repair. Um, they're I think some funds are being raised trying to buy the land and um, give them the recognition that they deserve from the Battle of Brooklyn, which was a big loss and a very bloody battle. Joshua's unit moved north up to Harlem Heights. Um, there was a small skirmish with the British there. Um, the Americans won, so it was a big morale boost for them. Then they moved up to White Plains, um, just a little bit further north. Um, they were defeated in White Plains. I lived in White Plains for a couple of years, and there's a memorial next to the Armory building to the soldiers that fought in that battle. Um, but the war moved on. After that loss, the Continental Army moved south to their winter position in Pennsylvania, near the Delaware River. This be a story that is probably very very common. Um, as winter approached, Washington was afraid that the British were going to advance on them. So he ordered that all boats along the Delaware River had to be destroyed or moved to Tennicum, which was a spot basically where they were. All ferry landings were kept under guard by the Pennsylvania and New Jersey militias. He wrote a letter to Brigadier General William Maxwell that really revealed the urgency and secrecy of the plan. Um, so then came the famous crossing of the Delaware on Christmas night. Um, Everything that could go wrong went wrong that night. There was a terrible storm going on. Um, was at times snow, ice, hail, strong winds, ice flows in the river, and very dangerous currents. Um, Joshua and 2,500 of his comrades made the river crossing. Um, they were about 3 hours later than Washington had planned because of all the problems. He nearly scuttled the entire uh, plan, but decided to go ahead. So they made a 10-mile march in darkness, surprising the Hessians in Trenton, and won a major victory. Um, from there, they marched to Princeton, and a week later had another victory there. So things were beginning to turn in the Americans' favor. Joshua's enlistment ended after the New Jersey victories. He went back home to Maryland, but a few months later, he reenlisted, um, joining the Maryland 4th Regiment as a corporal. And he served 4 more years, fighting in battles at Staten Island, Brandywine, and Germantown, which were all losses. Um, then he participated in, and this is a little gruesome, but a nighttime bayonet-only assault at Stony Point, New York. Um, that was really a major win. The Stony Point was at a kind of a pinch point in the Hudson River. Um, the British had a fort built there and were preventing traffic on the river, um, which made it difficult for Washington's forces to move around. Um, by going in at night, being very quiet, kind of a stealth type situation, um, they ended British control of the Hudson River. Um, Washington ordered the fort evacuated. They didn't want to occupy the fort, but it still was a key crossing point for crossing the Hudson in the final stages of the war. So Joshua was discharged in May of 1780, returned to Maryland. He married a woman named Martha Nutwell in 1781. 1786, they welcomed their only child, John Naylor, who's my fourth great grandfather. Um, Sadly, their married life was relatively short. Martha died sometime between the 1790 census and 1792 when Joshua and John moved to North Carolina.
John's
Um,
son.
I'm sorry?
John Naylor was their son,
Was their son. Yeah.
only son.
Um,
Wow.
yeah, their only son. Yeah. Um, After they moved south, Um, Joshua married Mourning Stoggins or possibly Scoggins. It's I've seen it both ways. Um, in 1861, it's interesting, kind of funny. Many years after Joshua had died, Mourning put in an application for a widow's pension.
Mhm.
Well, to at that point to qualify for a widow's pension, um, they had to have been married before 1794. So she said they were married in 1792. Her petition was denied, and with good reason. They weren't married until 1799.
Yeah, I thought you'd try.
She tried. She tried. She um, later they the law was changed again, and uh, all a widow had to do was prove that the husband fought for 14 days. You know,
Easy.
easy. She didn't do another petition. Um,
Oh.
she died in 1869 at the age of 92.
Mm.
Um, Joshua did receive a pension of $6 a month, which actually was pretty good money back then. Um, and he received a land grant of 200 acres in Rowan County, North Carolina. I actually just discovered that last night. Um, I found a,
Bravo.
found a site that I'd never seen before. It was um, a North Carolina state site that is not indexed. Um, and so I found that there was a reference to him and a file number, and scrolled through lots of pages. Uh, but I did find it. Um, Joshua Morning had um, at least 6 children that I know of. John did move south with his father, but um, pretty quickly he moved on to Buncombe County, which is Asheville,
Uh-huh.
and married Sarah Woodson there in 1806. Um, some things I've seen kind of hinted that John and his stepmother didn't get along too well,
That
and
happens.
yeah, so um, so he moved on and had a good life up there. But Joshua died in 1835 at the age of 83, which is
Mm.
twice the life expectancy of the time. Life
Yeah, having
expectancy then was 40.
survived those harrowing battles.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. So he's buried at the Lane Chapel Methodist Cemetery, which is near New London, North Carolina. And I haven't visited there, but I have seen a picture. His marker is still there, and um,
Wow.
he is recognized as a patriot,
Yeah.
and gets the flag on his grave every year. Um, his life was marked with courage, resilience, and patriotism. Um, it's pretty amazing. He survived some brutal battles, went home, re-enlisted, served again, and, went through it all again. Um, and then he lived long enough to really see the nation form
Yeah.
and begin to flourish, which,
Right.
I think is pretty good. Um, it's, it's really an amazing story, and,
Yeah.
a relative that I'm really proud to be able to claim.
Yeah. Now, do you have, as you dig into the records to find these kinds of stories, and gosh, I don't know if you had a chance to see all of the comments here, but it is so compelling to hear stories that we've heard bits and pieces of in different, recorded histories and whatnot. But to hear that personal perspective, to hear it from the voice of of a descendant. You see? And it is just means so much more as you follow along like it's a movie. Um, what do you think the motivations were for someone like that to say, "I'm pissed off about the taxation," "No taxation without representation," or
Yeah.
is that enough to go through that many battles and harrowing experiences and
Yeah,
bayonets in the dark of night?
Oh, yeah, yeah. I think, um, it was something that that he was learning at a young age. He, um, that part of Maryland, like I said, was very, anti-King George. Um,
Mhm.
and, they wanted wanted their freedom. Um, they, his father, um, they were tobacco farmers.
Uh,
Um, and, I'm sure the taxes and the Stamp Act hit them hard,
I see. They were
um,
tobacco farmers in Maryland.
in Maryland. Yeah.
I see, I see.
Yeah. Um, so I think it was something that he felt strongly.
Mm,
And I think having gone to war, been in the battles and then gone home, I think basically he felt like he needed to be, back in the thick of things.
war's
Sitting
still going
sitting at
on.
home
Yeah,
wasn't what he wanted to do. Um,
yeah.
then uh, he after the war when he was able to get the land grant, um, and coincidentally, a couple of his cousins uh, had moved down into the same area. When he married Mourning, one of his cousins had become a justice of the peace down there, and
Oh,
so he was one of the witnesses at their marriage.
uh-huh.
Um, but so I think at first I thought, well, maybe he just followed family. Then I found the land grant, and I said, okay, that makes it a little more worthwhile.
It's so interesting to have taken the discipline to study the whole family, to study enough to see the cousins that were also there. Diane Burley asks, "How much time did it take you to dig into all of this?" I think it's a great question.
Yeah, I have been working on this one for a long time.
Mhm,
Yeah, things have come in bits and pieces.
mhm,
Um, I years ago found a thing that was um, someone had written a letter to a family member, and um, I oh hi Julie, it's a cousin. um, but there was a letter that was written talking about the patriotism that our ancestors had exhibited, and their bravery, and how important it is that we maintain that. And when I saw that, I thought, you know, I need to know more about it. And then when I started finding out that he was involved in so many battles, um, and it was it hit home. I lived in New York City. There's a big, wonderful cemetery in Brooklyn, Greenwood Cemetery.
mhm, I know.
Um, it was very close to where that battle
Oh, wow. How
was.
about that?
There's a there is a statue on the highest point in the cemetery, a statue of Minerva,
Uh-huh.
and she's standing with her hand raised, um, facing directly at the Statue of Liberty.
Oh.
Um, and
Was it
this was
erected after the Statue of Liberty?
yes, yeah, yeah.
Uh-huh,
But she is saluting Lady Liberty.
uh-huh,
Um, Minerva was a goddess of war,
right.
so it's war saluting liberty. Um, but there are a lot of uh, like the DAR, SAR put on a lot of different events at that cemetery,
Yeah.
and all around the any anniversary of the Battle of Brooklyn. Um,
Wow.
but it's just another case where I kind of happened across some of these locations,
Yeah.
and when I moved up to White Plains and then found the plaque. At that point, I had no idea that he was involved in that battle.
Yeah.
Um, I just thought, oh, it's really, neat to have the history right here.
Right. Right.
Then I find out that we're, uh, we were living literally 4 blocks
Right.
from where that battle took place.
I know. I think in my mind, the whole point of telling these stories is to make this historic event, um, personal for each of
Well,
us.
yeah, yeah,
Because, and as we've seen in the Stories250 series, we have stories on both sides, all sides of this war, of this battle, and of the story, of the enlightening as a period of extraordinary change, around the world. And, we have a story of Hessian soldier who packs off to war in a foreign country at
yeah,
14 or something. And we have, all of these kinds of stories told from family who are now live in New Zealand and Australia. We see you, Anne. Uh, Jane, did we see you there too? It's just having these connections with so many of these just makes it so personal. I don't I live in California. I've never lived where any of these stories happened, and it's breathtaking. I mean, I visited, oh, there you are, Jane. Thank you. Jane Chapman, who kicked this whole series off from
yeah.
New Zealand, where she has family that participated in both sides of the war. And uh, Young, sorry, Anne, from Australia also has probably the longest list of participants that we've pulled into these stories. I'm trying to do these each month, as a one-on-one to keep telling the stories. I don't have a timeline. I could keep on going years after the big deal, celebration at 250 years because I just think these stories told with a real human, personal descendants is remarkable. And I want to thank you so much for joining today to get these stories and encourage you. I rather suspect you have a few more stories in you, that are going to continue. Is that right?
There's still a few to come. Yeah,
Still a few to come. There's no limit. Everyone is welcome to join in, and I'm always happy to pull people into the timeline and the map. I was very surprised. The map has been fascinating to see where all of our stories are anchored. And I'm always open to new ideas of other ways we can connect these things. Um, yeah.
Barbara, I was at our my local genealogy society that I'm a vice president of, had a field trip yesterday to the main museum in Rochester, and I had to tell you there were several uh, Lafayette posters up. Um, yeah, I thought about you, but um, it was an interesting day. We had about 25 people, I think, that made it to go in and spend a day researching and helping each other.
Yeah. Well, that's the Rochester Genealogy Society, right?
Yeah, mhm,
And, that's a reference to the project that I did around Lafayette, which again, not having lived on the mainland growing up,
yeah,
that is all of you contiguous American states, and not having really ever lived where any of my ancestors lived, I did that exploration of the Lafayette story and all of the places that he touched. And his story, that's where I learned most of my stories about what happened where and what battles, is explaining what happened in
yeah.
Brandywine and the rest of them. It's it's transformative to make those anchorages into family history, and that's kind of where it's really all about. So let's just keep this thing going. Chime in on the comments if you're watching this in video. I do believe we are close to an all-time record of the number of participants, and I'm very grateful for all of you. And I rather suspect that each of these is building on the others. And I'm just delighted to keep these going. Julie, lovely to meet you as a cousin. And since, Bill, you and I are cousins too, just
That's
just
right.
trying to grab a little bit of that glory. Um, Thank you so much, and I'm delighted, look forward to hearing all of your stories going forward. We're all kind of, "Hey, we're on this big marble together. Let's, carry these stories together." Thank you all so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank you, thank you. So let's, share that love and, watch the video and talk soon.
All
Goodbye
righty.
now.
Bye bye.